his robotic door prototype, built from cardboard and wire. I didn't understand all the tech talk, but I loved watching him talk about it. His eyes would light up, and his hands moved like he was building the future. It made me fall deeper. We studied late together in the hostel's common room. Sometimes I'd bring him food when he was pulling an ornator coding, and he'd help me break down the madness of biochemistry formulas. We were building something, slowly, steadily. Kenny wasn't the social type. He kept his circle small. Just Edward and Ray, his two closest friends. Equality guys, focused, ambitious. The kind of people you just know are going to become something someday. They'd hang out with Kemi and me sometimes. It felt safe. It felt like family. People around us noticed too. Friends would whisper, "You two look good together," and I believed it. Kenny was kind, focused, loyal, the kind of man you build a life with. I loved how he loved me after he graduated. He got posted to Port Harcourt for NYSC, landed a job almost immediately after. I visited when I could. Those weekends were everything. Then, a month into my final year, I returned from one of those visits feeling sick, tired, bloated. Kemi, being Kemi, joked and handed me a pregnancy test. I laughed. We were careful. I wasn't even worried until I saw it. 2 lines. I just stared. "Pregnant," Kemi screamed. "Call Kenny." But I couldn't. Not right away. 2 weeks passed before I told him. His reaction, shock, then joy. He was happy. He took time off work and rushed to campus the very next day. We were both confused, but we were in it together. He met with my key lecturers, made special arrangements for me. Some classes would go online, and for the rest, he promised to take trips with me monthly. That's how much he loved me. That's the kind of man Kenny was. But then, something changed. One weekend, at his place in Port Harcourt, I felt it. Blood. Just like that, I lost the baby. Kenny was devastated. But then, something in him snapped. It was the first time I ever saw him truly angry. He turned to me and asked, cold and hard, "Did you terminate the baby?" I froze. How could he ask me that? I had once said just in passing that I wasn't sure I could handle school and a baby, but I would never do anything to harm our child. Still, the damage was done. The question hurt deeper than anything else. I packed my things and went back to school, carrying more than just grief, carrying a crack that would never fully heal. Back at school, I was a mess. Kemi tried everything to cheer me up. One day, she looked at me, shook her head, and said, "This is why I want to remain single. I don't have the heart for all this." I actually laughed for the first time in weeks. 2 weeks later, Kenny came back. He looked different, quieter, softer, sorry. He booked a room at a hotel nearby, took me there to talk, and then he pulled out a ring. "I want to have you all to myself for the rest of my life," he said. I said yes. I was happy, but not joyous. We got married 6 months after I graduated. The wedding was beautiful. The honeymoon, peaceful, but cold. There was a distance I couldn't explain. I tried, but grief doesn't just disappear. You carry it, and sometimes it carries you. Still, we moved on. Work was good. Kenny was thriving, working with one of the top 5 tech companies in the country, running a side business too. Money wasn't the issue, but something else was. 5 years passed. No children. Kemi was in the US by then, pursuing her PhD. One day, during a call, she said, "Kim, have you gone to the hospital?" And I realized I hadn't. I brought it up with Kenny. He agreed, said we'd go together. But when the appointment day came, he didn't show. Not the first time, not the second, Not the third. I went alone. I got checked. I tried. But something in me said this isn't right. This isn't the Kenny I knew. This wasn't the man I fell in love with. I did all the tests alone. I cried in that cold hospital bathroom, holding the results that said nothing was wrong with me. Nothing, and yet no child, no explanation, just silence. I needed him to be part of this. He wasn't. I tried talking to him, but he always brushed it off. We're fine. God's time is the best. Stop stressing, it's not good for you. But it was more than that. He had grown distant, cold, polite, even like a roommate. He still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still smiled when guests came over. But behind closed doors, we were strangers. Then I noticed the change in his phone, habits, passwords updated, calls, in the bathroom, late nights at the office. I wasn't crazy. Something was wrong. This wasn't the Kenny who used to hold my hand like it was the most sacred thing in the world. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up his second phone, he thought. I didn't know he had one. I didn't go digging. I just opened it. And there it wasn't a girl like I had suspected. It was a man, Chili Ray's brother. I was mad. I was angry. I was shaking. Before this discovery, my mum had just lost her husband. After the funeral, we both agreed she needed a break, a vacation. We planned to go together. Just 5 days in France, I had already made up my mind to cancel. How could I travel now? How could I leave this storm unresolved? But then, a thought came. I gave myself a moment. I breathed, and I made a decision. I would still go. France was only 6 hours away. I would make the trip with my mum, but first I needed to return to Port Harcourt, tie up a few things, get my head straight. I told my mum, forget what I said earlier. I was wrong. She smiled, relieved. I've told you not to overthink things, she said happily. In 12 hours, I was back from Port Harcourt with a small suitcase in hand, and with my sweet, grieving mother. We boarded the flight. France, here we come. My mother, bless her, was all smiles. She'd never been to Europe before. She kept looking around, marveling at the little things, how the announcements sounded in French, how the air smelled different, how even the airport seats looked more polite. Me, I was there but not there. My thoughts were stuck on Kenny, on Chile, that hidden life. And yet I had promised myself 5 days, just 5 days to breathe. 5 days to be a daughter instead of a broken wife. Our hotel was this charming little place on the edge of Montmartre, a warm light, creaky floors, and a view of the Eiffel Tower if you tilted your head just right. I stood by the window, watching. Couples stroll the cobbled streets below, some holding hands, some laughing. I hated how beautiful everything looked. My mum came up beside me, her hands wrapped around a cup of herbal tea. She looked at me for a long while. Then she said something that surprised me. You don't have to fix everything today, my love. You just have to survive it. We went walking through a flower market the next morning, then spent the day visiting a few beautiful places my mum had written down. The same happened the next day, and the next. The activities were simple, but fulfilling. I'm glad she enjoyed them. At one point, my mother chatted with a vendor in broken English, buying too many tulips. And then, out of nowhere, I laughed. Actually laughed. Something about how she tried to say rose in French and ended up saying rice. That laugh scared me, because I hadn't heard it in weeks, maybe months, and I realized that pain doesn't erase who you are. It just buries it for a while. That night, back at the hotel, his name flashed across my screen. My love, Kenny, he'd texted. Hope you arrived safely. Tell your mum I said hi. Just that. No mention of the phone, or Chile, or anything real. I stared at the message for a full 10 minutes before locking the screen. No reply. Not now. Not here. On our last night, my mother and I climbed the stairs of Montmartre. From the top, Paris looked like a galaxy twinkling lights. Endless movement. She took my hand. Whatever you choose when we get back, I'm with you. I nodded, tears stinging again, but not from pain this time. From love. The kind of love that stays, even when everything else changes. We landed in Lagos late at night. I hugged my mum tightly at the airport, whispered a thank you for being my safe space, and watched her taxi drive away. Then I got into mine. Back to Port Harcourt. Back to him. Back to answers. The drive was quiet, but my mind loud. A week before the France trip, when Kenny's lies had grown too loud to ignore, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I planted cameras. One in the kitchen, one in the hallway, one facing our bed. I told myself it was paranoia, that I'd probably delete it all without watching. But now I needed the truth to have a voice, even if it screamed. I walked into the house like a stranger. The lights were dim. Everything smelled like cinnamon and silence. He wasn't home, probably still at the office. I locked the door, dropped my bag, and walked straight to the drawer where I kept the flash drive. My hands were shaking before I even plugged it in. The footage started slow. Days I recognized. Evenings I remembered. Me in the kitchen, making jollof rice. Him walking in. No kiss, no touch. Just a nod, fast forward. Him pacing in the living room. Phone pressed to his ear, laughing, whispering, "I miss you too." Then came the night after my trip. I watched him in our bedroom, pouring wine. 2 glasses. My breath caught, then he walked in. Chilly, not a friend, not a guest, but something else, something deeper, something I had no word for. They kissed, slow, deep, and long, familiar, unapologetic. I froze. I couldn't even cry. Not yet. I watched more than I should have. He touched him the way he hadn't touched me in months. He held him the way I used to be held. Like oxygen. Then it hit me. It was never me. It was never about stress or God's timing or anything I thought I lacked. It was a truth he never gave me the respect of knowing. I dropped to the floor. No strength, no scream, just sobs, ugly, gasping sobs that came from a part of me I didn't know existed. I cried until my voice left, until my throat burned, until my chest ached from holding in too much for too long. The footage was still playing. 2 long hours of betrayal. 2 hours of truth I never asked for. 2 hours of watching the man I married become a stranger, become a man to another man. I didn't even hear the door unlock, but I felt him the moment he walked in. Tension cracked in the air like lightning. He stepped forward quietly, dropping his keys on the console like he always did. But then he saw me sitting stiff on the floor, laptop open, the frame on the screen frozen. Our eyes met. That kind of look that needs no words. Then his gaze dropped to the screen, and there it was. Him and Chili, naked, exposed, tangled in something so passionate it mocked every night he told me, "I'm just tired." His mouth parted slightly. He didn't speak, didn't deny, didn't flinch. I wanted to scream, throw the laptop at him, ask him why, how, when, oh my God, why? But the words caught in my throat, heavy, burning, unspoken. So I just sat there, like a statue carved from disbelief and heartbreak, breathing, but barely. He took a slow step forward, then one back, like he wasn't sure if I would explode or disappear. "Kim." He finally said my name, soft, cautious, like it was made of glass, like he feared it would shatter in his mouth. I looked away. I couldn't bear to see his face wearing anything close to shame, because shame would mean he cared. And in that moment, I wasn't sure he did. I stood up slowly. My knees cracked from sitting too long in sorrow. I walked past him. Our shoulders brushed. He didn't stop me. Didn't follow Dodd in the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face. Stared hard at the woman in the mirror. Eyes swollen. Lips trembling. A soul I could barely recognize. That night, I didn't sleep in that house. I walked out, booked a nearby hotel with shaky hands, cried into their stiff white pillow until dawn. The next morning, I went back to the house, packed a bag, clothes, a few essentials. Then something pulled me toward the frames on the shelf. Our pictures from when we first met, to birthdays, to anniversaries. I grabbed every one I could find. Why? I didn't know. Maybe it was muscle memory. Maybe it was grief holding on to pieces of us. I texted my best friend, coming to see you, booked a flight. Kemi didn't ask a single question. Didn't even type, what happened? She just replied, I'll be at JFK. I've got you. I flew to the US to Kemi, my sister from another mother, in every way that mattered. The one who promised, if the world ever breaks you, I'll help you pick up the pieces. She met me at the airport with a warm blanket and my favorite juice. She didn't say a word, just hugged me like she was holding up my bones. Rest, she whispered. And for the first time in weeks, I did. I slept, without clenching my jaw, without flinching from dreams. When I was ready, she booked a therapist for me. A woman of God, gentle eyes, strong voice. Someone who didn't judge. Someone who reminded me that healing isn't just for the hurt. It's also for the hopeful. I sat on her brown leather couch and told my truth, loudly, tearfully, broken lie, and slowly, very slowly. I started to come back to myself. But love is a strange, wild thing. So is grief. 2 months later, I found myself sitting on Kemi's floor, surrounded by our old photos, staring at his smile, the way he used to look at me, the way he used to love me. And suddenly, the question shifted. No longer, why me, but what now? And the answer came like a whisper in my spirit. Try. Not because he deserved it, not because I forgot, but because I remembered. The man I married, not the one he became. So I booked a return flight to Port Harcourt, packed up my courage, and went back. He was home, thin, tired, ashamed. He opened the door like someone expecting judgment, or worse. But I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just said, we talk. Now, all of it. And we did. He told the truth. Said he'd known since he was a teenager. Tried to bury it in religion, in marriage, in me. Said he loved me, still does. But he was broken and didn't know how to ask for help. So we went back to therapy, together. This time it was messy, ugly, uncomfortable. But it was honest. And that saved us. We didn't rebuild the old version of us. We built something new. Something with cracks, but strong. Today, we have 3 children. Not because we were perfect, but because we tried. Because when love is real, you don't always walk away. Sometimes, you fight for your person. And sometimes, they fight back for you. This is my true story. Sometimes love fails, but sometimes it falls, then learns to walk again. Don't stay where you're being destroyed, but don't run from what can be restored. Get help. Be honest. And if you still believe, fight, because healing is holy and grace is worth giving.
They buried her cousin last December. A funeral with white lace, loud tears, and whispered secrets. But 3 months later, in the middle of Balogun Market, she saw her. It started with a smile, a small one, half hidden behind the edge of a blue geel beneath the Lagos sun in the middle of Balogun's endless chaos. Ada froze. The smile belonged to someone who shouldn't exist. Standing by a stall that sold Ankara wrappers and cheap jewelry was Chisholm, her cousin. Her dead cousin, the one she killed. December had been madness, heat, traffic, rice with too much oil, and jealousy that boiled like palm oil left too long on fire. Chisholm came back from abroad, flaunting everything. A new husband, rich and quiet, a wedding ring that sparkled like sin, and a smile that made Ada feel invisible. They were the same age, grew up like sisters, but Chisholm was always one step ahead, the prettier one, the luckier one, the one people wanted to be. That night, after the family Christmas party had happened, a fight near the back gate, heated words about money, marriage, and who deserved what. Ada didn't mean to push her, not that hard, but the way Chisholm's head hit the pavement, the silence. She had buried the body with help, paid someone off, lied through her teeth, faked the tears, and it worked until Balogun. The first time she saw the woman, Ada thought maybe she was hallucinating. Lagos heat can mess with your head. But the second time, same face, same voice, same laugh. Chisholm, buying peppers like she never bled out in a dusty backyard. Ada followed her heart, hammering like a talking drum. She pushed past traders, ignored hawkers, and nearly got hit by a kiki. But the woman vanished into a crowd near the cosmetics section, gone. That night, Ada couldn't sleep. She locked her door, double-checked her windows. She even searched, "Can a ghost enter Balogun Market?" on Google. Her husband, Tunde, asked if she was okay. She said yes. She lied again. Ada returned to Balogun, alone. She waited by the same corner where she saw her. Hours passed, no sign. She bought plantain chips just to blend in, then a flash of white lace. Chisholm again, this time by the shoe stalls, carrying a leather handbag with golden buckles, the exact one she wore the night she died. Ada called out, "Chisholm!" The woman turned and smiled. It was the same smile from that night, but then she said, "Sorry, do I know you?" The voice was so familiar, too familiar. Ada felt like she was going insane. Was this a twin? A doppelganger? A trick? Or had Chisholm survived and was now playing some sick game? The next day, Ada told her best friend Amaka what she saw. Amaka stared in silence, then asked slowly, "You said you pushed her, but are you sure she died?" "I buried her, Amaka." "No, you paid someone to bury a body. Did you see her dead?" Ada blinked. Her memory skipped. She remembered the fall. She remembered the blood. She remembered running, but she never checked for a pulse. Never confirmed anything. It was fear. Pure fear. Ada got closer. She followed Chisholm into a side street off the market, near a small chapel and some old warehouses. This wasn't a busy street. This wasn't somewhere people just went. Why was she here? Ada crouched behind a parked danfo, peeking. Chisholm, or whoever she was, entered a warehouse with faded red paint. The door creaked shut. 5 minutes. 10. Then, a man stepped out. Tunde, Ada's husband, holding hands with her dead cousin. Ada didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs were jelly, her throat dry, her mind chaos. She had seen 2 ghosts today. One was her cousin Chisholm, who was supposed to be 6 feet under. The second was her husband holding the hand of that ghost like it was nothing, like he'd done it before. Tunde with Chisom? No. This had to be something else. Maybe this wasn't Chisom. Maybe this was a look-alike. Maybe Tunde was helping her out of pity. Maybe it was all innocent, right? But then, Tunde leaned in and kissed her. Not a peck. A kiss. A slow, familiar, dangerous kiss. The kind he hadn't given Ada in months. Ada didn't remember walking away. 1 second she was behind the Danfo. The next she was outside the market, hyperventilating. Voices around her were muffled women haggling over lace, conductors shouting, "Obalende!" a preacher with a megaphone yelling about hellfire. But all she could hear was, "Tunde kissed Chisom, and Chisom is alive." She didn't go home that night. Instead, she sat in a small buka in Mushin, staring into a bowl of pepper soup that had long gone cold. Her phone buzzed missed calls from Tunde. Over 12. She switched it off. Was this what guilt felt like? Or was this betrayal tasting like iron on her tongue? She had killed for Tunde, or at least she thought she had, and now he was kissing the same woman she envied. By morning she had made a plan. She went back to Balogun, dressed differently, tied her scarf like the Igbo mamas, wore oversized shades. She had to follow Chisom again, get proof, something real, something that explained this madness, and she did this time. She wasn't spotted. She tailed them Chisom and Tunde all the way to a guest house in Yaba room 108. Ada waited for hours, watching. She didn't blink. She didn't eat. She just sat on a plastic chair at the Mama Put joint across the street, her eyes fixed on the brown gate. When they came, out! She saw it, the ring on Chisom's finger, Tunde's ring, her ring. Ada remembered it perfectly, gold with a small blue sapphire. Tunde had promised her it was unique. No one else in the world has this exact ring, he'd said, yet there it was, on Chisom's hand. That night, Ada went home. Tunde was already inside, sitting on the bed, acting like everything was fine. She walked past him, into the bathroom, shut the door, and screamed, silently, not because of fear, but because she now knew Chisom didn't survive. And the woman in Balogun wasn't just a look-alike, she was a replacement. The next day, Ada went to the man who had helped her last December, the one who handled problems for money. He was sitting in his shop, sharpening a long knife and whistling. "I need information," she said. "No killing," she added. "Not yet." He looked up, smiling like the devil. "What kind of information?" "I want to know who's pretending to be my dead cousin, and why my husband is helping her." The man laughed, then said something that made Ada's blood go cold. "You're not the first to ask." Ada stiffened. Her palms grew cold. "What did you just say?" she asked slowly. The man known on the streets as Baba Tega leaned back on his plastic stool, knife still in hand. "I said," he repeated, grinning. "You're not the first person who came asking about her. That woman, your dead cousin, someone else was here last week too. Paid me well. Told me to find out who she really is. Left no name." Ada's breath caught. "Man or woman?" "Woman," he said. "With a scar above her eyebrow. Looked like she's been through war." Ada knew that scar. It belonged to Ujunwa Chisom's old roommate from university. They hadn't spoken in years, but Ada remembered the day Chisom beat her bloody during a school fight over a stolen phone. They were close until they weren't. What was Ujunwa doing in Lagos? Why was she investigating Chisom too? Ada felt something tighten in her chest. What if this wasn't just jealousy anymore? What if she had walked into something deeper? She left Baba Tega's place with one sentence echoing in her head. "You're not the first." The words followed her all the way home, all through her bath, even when she lay beside Tunde in bed, pretending to sleep, pretending not to notice the faint perfume of vanilla and hibiscus on his collar, Chisholm's signature scent. The next day, Ada made her move. She waited until Tunde left the house, then quietly followed him. He took a taxi, not his usual car. A white Toyota with a scratched bumper. He didn't notice Ada's Kiki weaving through traffic behind him. Destination, Ilasamaja, a quiet compound with high gates and a noisy generator humming in the background. Tunde got out, walked in, no keys, just knocked twice. The gate opened, and there she was again. Chisholm, or whatever her name really was. But this time, she wasn't smiling. Ada reached for her phone and took a photo, then another, then zoomed in on something A-mark, right behind her ear. A faded scar shaped like a K. Ada froze. Not Chisholm, Kambili. The twin Chisholm claimed had died at birth. The twin nobody ever met. The one their auntie once whispered about during an overnight vigil drunk on prayer and palm wine. The family secret. The one buried long ago. Ada's heart raced. She didn't know whether to scream or cry or vomit. She had killed Chisholm, but this wasn't her. This was Kambili, her ghost twin, the buried truth, alive, and somehow she had taken Ada's place. But why? And why was Tunde helping her? What did they want? Was this revenge, a con, or something worse? That night, Ada texted Amaka to meet her at a bar in Surulere. Amaka arrived wearing a big hoodie and carrying pepper spray, just in case. Ada showed her the photos, the scar, the ring, the kiss. Amaka listened in silence, then said, "You need to talk to Ujunwa, now, before they come for you." "Why would they come for me?" Ada asked. Amaka looked away, then muttered, "Because you didn't kill Chisholm like you think you did." Ada blinked. "What?" "Ujunwa sent me a message yesterday," Amaka whispered. "She said she found something in the autopsy report." Ada's hands trembled. "Chisholm didn't die from the fall, Ada. She died 24 hours after that night." Ada's mouth went dry. "What do you mean she died 24 hours after?" Her voice cracked like a glass under pressure. Amaka leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ujunwa got her hands on a copy of the autopsy report. She paid someone at the coroner's office." Then slowly, "It says Chisholm had blunt force trauma, but that wasn't what killed her. The real cause of death was," she paused, "poison." Ada's world tilted. Poison. That wasn't possible. She hit her head. She was bleeding. "I saw it," Ada insisted. "I left her there. I called Baba Tega to fix it." Amaka nodded. "But the report says she was alive for hours after that. Someone gave her something later, something that stopped her heart." Ada's hands were trembling so hard she almost dropped her drink. She stared at the glass. It looked exactly like the one she held the night it all began. Christmas, jealousy, the push, the body. But now a question sat heavy in her chest. If I didn't kill her, who did? That night Ada couldn't go home. She went to a cheap lodge near Ojuelegba, locked the door, and sat in the dark, scrolling through her gallery, looking at every picture she had with Chisholm. In one of them of photos taken a week before the incident, something new jumped out at her. Tunde, in the background, standing by the kitchen and looking at Chisholm, not just looking, watching her. With a hunger in his eyes Ada had never noticed. Before, she called Ujunwa. To her surprise, the number rang. "Hello?" The voice was rough. "Ujunwa, it's Ada." Silence. Then, "You shouldn't have called me. I need to know what you found." More silence. Then Ujunwa said, "Meet me tomorrow. 9 a.m. ShopRite, Ikeja Mall." We can't talk over the phone. They might be listening. She hung up. Ada sat frozen, staring into the dark. They? Who was they? The next morning, Ada arrived early. Sat at a corner table by the food court facing the escalator. 9 was a.m. past. 9:10, 9:15, no sign of Ujunwa. 30. A waitress walked up to her with a note. Someone said to give you this, the waitress said. Ada opened the folded paper. It was hurriedly written, do not go home, they know you know. Meet me at the back of the old cinema, come alone. Ada's heart nearly stopped. She rushed out, eyes darting around. Paranoia gripped her like cold iron. She took a cab to the old cinema, an abandoned building now crawling with weeds and ghosts of forgotten films. Ujunwa was already there, leaning on the wall, pale, sweating. Ada, listen to me carefully. You were never supposed to see her at Balogun. What is she? Ada asked. She looks like Chisholm. She acts like Chisholm, but she's not. She's something else. Ujunwa looked around, lowered her voice. I've been following her. She doesn't sleep in the same place twice. She meets with different men. Sometimes she goes by Kambili, sometimes by Chisholm. But recently, I heard her say a name. Mara. Ada frowned. Mara? It's a code, or a name given to her by someone. She's not just a person, she's a plant, a setup, sent to destroy something. Maybe you, maybe someone else. But it all started before December. What are you talking about? Ada whispered. I think Chisholm found something out before she died, something dangerous. And Mara, or Kambili, whatever she is, was sent to silence her. But you. Ujunwa turned to her, eyes wild. You got in the way. Ada felt the ground shift again. So I didn't kill Chisholm. You pushed her. Yes, but she survived. Someone came back for her later and finished the job. My guess? Your husband. No. Yes, Ujunwa insisted. She was about to expose something. Something about a money trail, fake contracts, ghost accounts. Tunde's name was in it. Chisholm found the documents. Ada staggered back. That night, the argument. Chisholm had mentioned dirty money. Said something about protecting the family name. Ada thought it was pride, but now she looked up. Ujunwa was staring behind her, eyes wide, face pale. Ada, she said, don't move. Ada turned. A dark figure stood in the shadows, clapping. Very impressive, the voice said. Smooth, male. A voice she knew. Tunde. Ada's breath caught. Tunde stepped out of the shadows like a scene from a horror film. Except this wasn't a movie, and the villain was wearing her husband's face. Ujunwa, he said smoothly. You just couldn't let it go, could you? Ujunwa reached into her purse. Ada noticed her fingers trembling. Don't bother, Tunde said, raising his hand. There's a gun pointed at both of you, not by me. Behind them, someone cocked a weapon. A soft metallic click. Ada turned slowly. Chisholm, or was it Kambili, or was it Mara? She stood there in a black dress, eyes void of expression. No makeup, no smile, no pretense, just a cold, calculating calm, and a pistol in her hand. Why? Ada whispered. What do you want from me? Mara smiled. It was terrifying. Wanted your silence, she said. And for a while, you gave it freely. But then you got nosy. She stepped closer. The plan was simple. Chisholm got curious. She dug too deep. She found numbers, accounts, things that were meant to stay buried. So we did what had to be done. She was a threat. Ada's mouth went dry. So you killed her? No, Mara said. Tunde did. Ada turned to her husband, but he looked relieved, like a man who had just taken off a mask he'd worn too long. She was going to ruin everything, he said. Our investments, the offshore accounts. She found the trail and was ready to leak it. You think I built this life from scratch? Ada, I inherited it. Through precision, through calculated losses. Chisholm, Ada realized, was just one of those losses. And me, Ada asked, voice shaking. Was I a loss too? Tunde walked toward her slowly. No. You were useful. But you got too emotional and now you're a liability. Ujungwa, now pale and sweating, looked between them. She muttered something. In Igbo under her breath. Ada barely caught it. But it was a prayer, a final one. Then without warning she charged at Mara. Gunshot, screams, dust, chaos. Ada hit the ground hard. Her ears rang. She couldn't see clearly. One figure slumped to the floor. Another stumbled back. And in the haze, someone grabbed her hand. It was Mara, dragging her, running. Come with me if you want to live, she hissed. Ada couldn't believe it. The same woman who threatened her life just minutes ago was now saving it. They burst through the back exit of the cinema, down a narrow alleyway. Motorcycles zoomed past. Vendors stared. Mara, what are you doing? Ada shouted. But Mara didn't answer. Not yet. They reached a hidden garage. Inside was an old blue Camry. Mara opened the door and threw her inside. Then she said it. They lied to me too, Ada. I thought you killed Chisholm, that you were the problem. But the real monster is the one you married. Ada blinked, her ears still ringing, tears threatened to spill. So why help me now? Mara pulled off her wig. Her natural hair, braided tightly, glistened with sweat. Because I've played the role of the villain long enough, she whispered. But I remember who I am now. She looked straight into Ada's eyes. My name is not Mara. It's Kambili, and Chisom was my sister. Ada stared at her. No, she breathed. That's not possible. Chisom never had a sister. A twin, maybe. But she said your mother said you died at birth. Kambili looked away, her jaw tight. I wish I had. The air in the car grew heavy. Outside, Lagos thundered with its usual noise, sirens in the distance, hawkers shouting, life carrying on like nothing had shattered. But inside that car, time stopped. Kambili took a breath, then began. I was born 5 minutes after Chisom, but I wasn't breathing. They thought I was dead. The nurse wrapped me up and set me aside, but a cleaner saw my fingers twitching. They saved me, secretly. She paused. My father didn't want twins, said it was a bad omen. So they gave me away to a family far from Anambra. I was raised in silence. No pictures, no records, just shadows. Ada's hands trembled. All my life, Kambili continued. I knew. Something was missing. I felt her. I used to dream of her face before I even knew her name. She looked at Ada. Then last year I saw her photo, online, and I knew. Ada's voice cracked. So, you came back for her? No, Kambili said. I came back to meet her. I tracked her down, followed her, watched her. I was scared. How do you walk up to someone and say, Hi, I'm the sister they buried while you were still crying? Ada's tears finally fell. She had killed this woman's sister, or at least she thought she had. Kambili continued, but I was too late. The day I decided to finally speak to her, I followed her to the house. I was there. I saw you two fight. Ada's eyes widened. You saw? Yes, from behind the fence. I saw you push her, saw her hit her head. I ran in after you, left. She was breathing, but barely. I tried to wake her. I held her hand. Kambili paused. That's when he arrived. Tunde, Ada whispered. Kambili nodded. He stepped out of the shadows like a ghost. No panic, no surprise, just calm. He said, You must be the other one. I didn't understand. Then he dragged me aside, called someone on the phone. He told me to stay quiet, or I'd end up beside her. Ada's stomach twisted. This wasn't just murder. This was a cover-up that went deeper than anyone imagined. Kambili looked straight ahead now, hands tight on the steering wheel. He made a deal with me. Said if I kept quiet, I could take her place. Said I looked just like her. He needed me to pose, to calm the rumors, to inherit some properties, sign a few papers, smile at the right events. Ada whispered. So you pretended to be her. I had no choice. He said I'd die if I didn't, but I didn't know. I didn't know what he really did until I saw her death certificate, dated 24 hours after you pushed her. Ada stared into nothing. And now? She asked. Why are you helping me now? Kambili looked at her, eyes softer this time. Because I saw the way he looked at you. He doesn't love you, Ada. He's keeping you around because you know enough to burn his empire. He planned to erase you next. Ada's head throbbed with memory. The missing ring. The lies. The way he watched her while she slept. A knock on the window startled them both. Kambili reached for the glove box. A small knife. Not a gun too loud, but it was a woman, middle-aged. Headscarf, dusty wrapper. Ada, she asked. Are you Ada Madhu? Ada's heart raced. Yes? The woman slipped a note into her hand and walked away. No explanation, no name. Ada opened it. It read, I know what happened to Chisholm, and I know who's still watching you. Come to 13 Olonade Street. Come alone. Kambili peered over her shoulder. That's Yaba, she said. Ada looked up. We're going. As they drove off, a black Prado Jeep slowly pulled out of a nearby alley. Inside, Tunde sat in silence. Beside him, a man in a foreign suit whispered into a headset. They're moving. Should we intercept? Tunde smiled coldly. No, let them. Run. He pulled out a small object from his pocket. A gold necklace. Chisholm's necklace, still stained with blood. Not the usual light Lagos drizzle, this one felt personal, like the sky was trying to wash away secrets. Kambili parked 2 streets away from 13 Olonade. They walked the rest of the way, hoods up, silent. Both women carried ghosts in their shadows now. The house looked abandoned, flaking paint, a broken window, but the light was on. Ada hesitated. Kambili looked at her. If this is a trap, she said, we don't go down quietly. Ada nodded. They stepped inside. The woman from earlier was waiting, older now, but Ada recognized her. One of Chisholm's old nannies. Her name escaped her memory. My name is Nkiru, the woman said. I raised both girls until they were torn apart. She looked at Kambili. You were never supposed to be erased. But your mother was scared. Your father made the decision. I'm so sorry. Kambili's eyes were cold. I'm not here for apologies. Nkiru nodded. Then listen closely. She poured them tea. Neither drank. Then she told them the truth. Chisholm had discovered everything. Tunde's offshore accounts, money laundered through ghost NGOs, shell companies in Ada's name, yes, Ada's name, fake land purchases signed by Chisholm Madhu, except she never signed them. Tunde had been building an empire, using their names as shields, and when Chisholm threatened to expose it, he silenced her. But it wasn't just him. There was a network, men in government, foreign names, people who needed Chisholm gone. Kambili was supposed to replace her long enough to sign the final deals and then disappear. 2. A twin no one knew about. A body double, a pawn. And Ada, collateral damage. Kambili stood up. We need to end this, she said. I need them to know Chisholm didn't just vanish. She was murdered, and I am done hiding. Nkiru handed Ada a file. Proof, she said. Chisholm gave it to me 2 days before she died. Told me if anything happened to wait. She said you would come. Ada opened it. Bank statements, ID copies, photos, and at the bottom, a memory card. They watched it on Nkiru's old laptop. It was Chisholm, face pale, eyes serious. If you're watching this, she said, I didn't make it. But I found the truth. And I need you, whoever you are, to finish what I couldn't. Ada covered her mouth as tears poured freely. Beside her, Kambili was stone still. They took everything, the files, the footage, and went to the press. One brave journalist, an ex-military man turned whistleblower, agreed to release it. Within hours, the story exploded. Minister's son-in-law accused in billion-dollar fraud ring. Woman returns from the dead to expose murder and corruption. Photos of Chisholm and Kambili side by side went viral. The world saw what Ada never did. They weren't just sisters. They were mirrors. Tunde ran for a while. But Nigeria isn't always kind to men who cross the wrong people, especially when those people need a scapegoat. He was arrested at the airport, smiling like he had one more trick left. 2 weeks later, Kambili disappeared. No calls, no note, no warning, just gone. Ada searched, hired people, nothing, until one day, at Balogun Market, she saw her, again, by the same fabric stall, but this time she wasn't wearing black. She wore white, radiant, at peace. Ada ran toward her, but the woman turned, and it wasn't Kambili, just another face that looked too close, too familiar. That night, Ada sat in her apartment. The city outside kept moving, traffic, parties, sirens. But in her chest, silence had finally made peace. She lit a candle, opened her Bible, and played Chisholm's last video again. I don't need revenge, Chisholm had said. I just want the truth to outlive the lie. Ada smiled sadly. Rest! Now, she whispered, then closed the laptop. The past was over, but the face of her cousin, the face of her sister, the face of justice, would never be forgotten.
The Oladale mansion loomed over Lagos like a monument to power. Gleaming marble, manicured gardens, and gates that whispered, "You do not belong here." Adana Okoro, just 17, moved through its halls like a ghost, silent, unseen. The perfect house girl in a home where wealth was a weapon and pride was low. She kept her head down, her voice soft, her presence forgettable. It was the only way to survive. Chief Adebayo Oladale was more than a man. He was an empire. Charismatic, ruthless, and engaged to Lola, the daughter of a high-ranking politician. Their union wasn't just love, it was strategy. But on the night of their engagement party, beneath crystal chandeliers and the weight of Lagos elite, Lola did the unthinkable. She dragged her best friend Rola into the restroom, away from the cameras, the champagne, and Chief Adebayo's possessive smile. The room was cold, silent, just the muffled sounds of jazz and expensive laughter echoing from the grand hall. Ololade gripped Rola's hands, her eyes wide, heart racing. Ololade whispered, in disbelief, voice rising with panic. "Are you crazy, Ololade? You want to walk out now? Tonight? What the hell is this? Because of Daniel? You think that man can offer you what Chief gives you?" Ololade reached into her purse and pulled out the heavy diamond-encrusted engagement ring she already removed from her finger. She pressed it into Rola's palm. "Take it. Return it to him. I'm leaving. And don't ask me where I'm going. I won't tell you. But next week, I'll be in the UK, starting over. I need to live my life. For me. Ololade, please. Chief won't take this lightly. You don't walk away from a man like Adebayo Oladele and just vanish. But Ololade was already walking toward the back exit of the restroom. Her heels echoed against the marble floor, a red gown trailing behind her like spilled wine. She didn't look back, and in moments, she was gone. The engagement party continued, but the bride-to-be was nowhere to be found. Whispers started like ripples in a still lake. Is she changing her outfit? Did she fall ill? But when Chief returned to the hall alone, stone-faced, drink in hand, everyone understood something was wrong. He said nothing, just signaled to Gary, his closest enforcer. The party ended in silence while he continued drinking, his business ruined. He kicked the air. He was angry. Meanwhile, same night, inside the maid's room, Adana sat on a small bed, folding towels, devastated because she thought that after the engagement and the marriage, this would stop. But no, someone knocked on her door. Chief wants to see you. Now, her hands trembled. She stood slowly, tying her wrapper tighter. The room smelled of old whiskey and burning cigars. Bookshelves lined the walls. A single chair faced the window. Chief didn't turn around. Sit down. She sat. His voice was low, calm. Chief Oladale, Kont. Do you know what loyalty means, Adana? She didn't answer. He turned, walked toward her and had his way, like he has been doing for months now. One morning, Adana knelt by the toilet, vomiting again. It had been 3 days. Her body was weak, her heart terrified. Chief noticed her that night. She hadn't flinched at his touch. Instead, she seemed still, almost resigned. That wasn't like her. Suspicious, Chief summoned a nurse. A quick test. Minutes later, the result was clear. Adana was pregnant. Chief's glass shattered against the floor. He was furious. Pay her! Send her away, he ordered. But Adana didn't leave. Where would she go? Her home had burned to ashes when she was 4. Her entire family gone in one night. An uncle dropped her at an orphanage and vanished. From there, she was sent to Chief's house. No family, no friends, no place to run. Just a baby growing inside her. And the mansion that had become her prison. Chief left on a 2-week business trip. When he returned, Adana was still in the house. Why are you still here? He demanded. For the first time, Adana spoke. I have nowhere to go, no family, no home. That night, Chief took her again, over and over, without a plan, without care. She was not his concern. One day, Adana found courage. She approached Gary, Chief's trusted enforcer. I need help, she whispered. She told him everything, the abuse, the pregnancy. Gary was not a patient man, but he listened. He promised to help her, somewhere safe to stay until the baby came. But there was a price. Adana agreed. That evening, she left with Gary. For the first time, she took what wasn't hers. She did it for her baby. Adana stayed in a small flat Gary arranged in the outskirts of Lagos. It was nothing like the mansion, but it was quiet, safe. For the first time, she slept without fear. Months passed. Her belly grew, and so did her silence. She never asked about Gary's deal. She just waited. One night, Gary came with a brown envelope. Chief thinks you ran, he said. He's not looking. But this is the end of my help. Inside the envelope were a few naira notes, a SIM card, and an address. I kept my word, Gary muttered. Now you keep yours. Then he left. Alone again, Adana stared at the address. It led to a women's shelter, quiet, hidden. She checked in under a false name, and a few weeks later, she gave birth. A baby boy, a son, a reason to live. She named him Chimdi. God lives. The sun rose quietly over the shelter. Birds chirped outside. Inside, Adana sat by the window with Chimdi in her arms. He was barely a week old, but already her world revolved around his tiny breath. She had nothing, no job, no family, no promises. But she had him, and that was enough. She cleaned floors at a nearby restaurant during the day, carrying Chimdi on her back in a wrapper. At night, she read donated books from the shelter's small shelf, whispering words of hope over her son. Years passed. Chimdi grew fast, strong, curious, always asking questions. Adana enrolled in evening classes. Slowly, painfully, she finished secondary school. Then a scholarship came through the shelter, a rare blessing. She took it. She studied nursing, then midwifery. Eventually, Adana and Chimdi moved into a small rented room of their own. It still wasn't much, but this time, it was hers and his. Every day she reminded him, "You're not a mistake, my son. You're my miracle." Chimdi smiled and said it back. "God lives, Mama." "I know." Adana kept working, day by day, shift by shift, to survive and care for her beloved son. Life was not easy, but she never complained. She started as a community nurse, visiting homes, offering care with gentle hands and a kind heart. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. Then one day, life surprised her. While attending to a patient in one of the neighborhoods, she looked up, and there he was, Gary. Years had passed, but he recognized her instantly. The fragile girl he once helped had become a strong, graceful woman. He was stunned, moved, and for the first time, speechless. They talked for a long time, and after that day, he kept coming back, sometimes just to talk, sometimes just to listen. Slowly, their friendship rekindled, and over time, something deeper began to grow. One evening, he took her hand and asked, "Adana, will you marry me?" She shook her head gently. "No, Gary, I can't. Not now. My son is my only future. I cannot allow any distractions. He needs all of me." Gary respected her decision. She stayed focused, steady, and her hard work paid off. A better job came, more pay, more stability, and Chimdi, now older, began to take a deeper interest in her work. He would ask endless questions about health, the body, and how medicine worked. One day, he looked at her and said, "Mama, I want to help people like you do. I want to be a doctor." Gary heard this and came to her again, not to ask for her hand this time, but to make a promise. "Let me train the boy. Let me do this for him and for you." This time, Adana didn't say no. She simply nodded, her eyes filled with quiet gratitude. Chimdi grew into a fine, sensible young man, diligent, respectful, and deeply compassionate. While other boys his age chased temporary things, he chased excellence. Medicine consumed him, not for glory, but for purpose. He never forgot the nights his mother worked till her fingers bled, or how she carried him on her back while mopping hospital floors. With Gary's quiet but steady support, Chimdi finished medical school. He graduated with honors, wearing a wide smile and tears in his eyes as he held his certificate. Adana couldn't speak. She only wept, proud, grateful tears. "My God is alive," she whispered, "just like your name, my son, Chimdi." Years later, mother and son opened a clinic, then a full hospital. A modest but beautiful two-story building in the heart of the community that once overlooked her. The sign above the door read, "Chimdi Grace Medical Center, where hope heals." Adana wing. Chimdi handled the surgeries and emergency care. Gary, now a calm, steady father figure, oversaw logistics and administration. The hospital became a refuge. Women who once had no voice now had care. Children born into hardship were welcomed into a place of safety. Every life they touched was a piece of Adana's redemption story. Then, one rainy Thursday afternoon, a commotion broke at the emergency entrance. A man had collapsed on the way to the airport. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow. Nurses wheeled him in fast. Chimdi was already in scrubs when he pulled the curtain back and froze. There, lying pale and fragile on the hospital bed, was Chief, older, weaker, but unmistakably the same man from a life they had buried long ago. He looked nothing like the lion he once was. And outside the room, Adana stood silently, her hands trembling slightly, her breath shallow, staring at the man who once ruined her life. But this time, the power was hers. Chimdi knew. He checked the name again and again. Her mother has told him everything he needs to know. He checked the vitals, composed but shaken. "We need to stabilize him," he said quietly to the nurses. "Get oxygen, fluids, and page the cardiologist, now." Adana stood in the doorway, still as stone. The years hadn't erased the scars, but they had taught her strength. She watched as her son, the boy born from sorrow, now fought to save the very man who once discarded them both. Later that evening, Chief regained consciousness. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the pale hospital light. He turned, confused, taking in the room until they landed on her, Adana, mature, graceful, clothed in quiet dignity. Not the frightened girl from years ago. She didn't speak at first, just stood there, steady. Finally, Chief whispered, "Adana?" She nodded. A long silence passed. He said, voice cracking, "I thought you were gone." "I was," she replied, calm but firm. "But God brought me back." Chief's eyes filled with tears. Weak and broken, he began to sob. "I did you wrong. I destroyed so much. I don't deserve to be here." She turned to leave, but paused at the door. "My son saved your life today. The boy you never wanted. The boy I raised while scrubbing floors. He's a doctor now. And this hospital, we built it." Chief covered his face, shame heavy like a stone, and she walked away. In the hallway, Chimdi stood, waiting. He looked at her face, unsure what had been said, but sensing the weight of it. "You okay, Mama?" she exhaled. "Yes, I am Chim." They walked down the corridor together, mother and son, past the nursery windows glowing with new life. The past no longer held them. The future was theirs to write. Months passed. Chief recovered slowly, but he was no longer the man he once was. His wealth had vanished. The influence he once wielded had faded into whispers. Each day, as he walked the corridors of the hospital built by the very people he once discarded, he saw a mirror of what could have been if pride hadn't stood taller than love. He watched Adana, graceful, respected, unshaken. Not once did she gloat. She didn't seek revenge. She chose something far more powerful. She chose healing, and in that choice, she found peace. Chimdi continued to shine, not just in his skill with a scalpel, but in his gentleness with patience, his integrity, and his unwavering compassion. The hospital didn't grow through ads or campaigns, but through the quiet, powerful testimony of those who had been touched. They care here, they listen, they heal. At the heart of it all stood Adana, the girl once broken, now a beacon. Women came to her, not only for care but for courage. Young girls gathered around her, learning far more than medicine. They learned strength, they learned grace, they learned they mattered, and through it all, Gary remained by her side. He never rushed, never demanded. He simply loved, silently, faithfully. And over time, without grand declarations, they became a family, not perfect, but whole. Their story taught many things. That pain may shape you, but it does not have to define you. that a single act of kindness, like a man offering shelter years ago, can ripple through generations. That children born in adversity are not burdens. They are often the very answers to whispered prayers. That forgiveness is not surrender, but wisdom dressed in strength. And above all, that God is alive, still working in hospital hallways, broken homes, and forgotten hearts. And that legacy had a name, Chimdi, because truly, God is indeed alive.